Hey, I'd like to welcome you to Central Online. Excited for this series we're entitled Relationship Goals. I hope this series has been meaningful and challenging. As one of my friends told me a week ago after the message, he said, that message was really uncomfortable. It's really hard to sit through. But I've learned that sometimes you have to be with God, you have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. And I hope it's a really good uncomfortable if you've been there, if you've struggled with some of this, or at the very least feel challenged to grow closer in your relationship. Just as a reminder, the first week, our relationship goal was seek God first. Put God first in our relationship. Then the following week, we talked about this idea of a covenant, not a contract. We want the math to be 1 + 1 + 1 equaling 1. All of you, all of your spouse, in seeking God first, and that to be the equation for a healthy relationship. We don't want a conditional agreement. We want unconditional commitment in marriage. And then, of course, last week we talked about having the same mission and being intentional with that. Be intentional with your mission. Know what you're living for, what you're striving for in your marriage. Don't just float by. Before I tell you what today's relationship goal is, I want you to imagine a little scenario with me. I want you to imagine that you pull your phone out, it starts beeping, and you see on there that there is an alert. It's a escaped prisoner, right? There's an escaped prisoner, and specifically, this prisoner is looking for you. Right? They have named you specifically. They've been in prison watching you, studying you. They have access to your social media. They know all about your life. They know your behavior on social media. They know where you live. They know your spouse's name. They know your name. They know your kid's name. They hate you. They want to destroy you. They know so much about you, and they have escaped, and they're coming to find you. They want to destroy you. What would you do? Well, chances are you would be so on guard that it would just be absolutely ridiculous, right? I don't care if you're the most peaceful, pacifist, tree-hugging person out there. If you know that a prisoner wants to come and destroy you, wants to destroy everything you care about, you're going to be on guard. You're probably going to get a security system or upgrade your security system. You might get one of those Ring doorbells, where it starts filming them, but instead of just filming them, maybe it's Home Alone style. Maybe Kevin McAllister will help you modify that to protect you. If this was the case, you'd probably get a dog, and not like a cute little designer handbag dog. You'd get the type of dog that bites people, right? You would get that type of dog. And I don't know how you feel about weapons, but chances are if you knew someone was coming to destroy you, to ruin your life, you would get a weapon with one of the 4 S's. Something that shoots, something you can swing, something that you can stab with, or something you can spray somebody with, right? You're going to get a weapon. You're going to have floodlights. You're going to have motion sensors. You're going to tell your neighbors, tell your wife, tell your kids, tell everybody, right? You would be on guard. You would be alert. Now here's the truth, and you probably already know this. You probably know where I'm going with this analogy, but the truth is there is someone out there looking to destroy you. There is someone out there who wants to destroy everything that matters to you. He wants to destroy you and your spouse and your kids. He wants to leave your life in shambles. And unfortunately, he's been very successful at it with many people's lives. Peter tells us this in 1 Peter 5:8. He says, stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy. Who is our enemy? He says, your great enemy is the devil. He prowls around roaring like a lion, looking for someone to devour. We have to remember who our enemy is. And he is watching. He's waiting. He's studying. He's prowling. He's cunning. He's deceitful. He's invasive. Ephesians 6:10-12 says this. It says the final word, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you'll be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. We have to understand that in our relationships, if we're feeling angry, if we're feeling resentful, if we're feeling hurt, if we're feeling disappointed, if we're feeling anxious, if we're feeling discontent, please understand your spouse is not the enemy. Your kids are not the enemy. Your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your extended family, your co-workers, they are not the enemy. Our enemy is the powers of this dark world. It's a spiritual battle. It's evil spirits in the heavenly places. That is who our enemy is. And we're told to be alert, to stand against that. We're told to be strong in the Lord and put on His mighty power. Put on all of God's armor. You know, here's what I've learned, is the devil rarely announces his attacks. You ever think about that? You know, sometimes as a high school football coach, maybe your team will be doing really well, right? And you're just milking the clock at the end. You're just trying to run it out, trying to keep the clock moving. And occasionally, every once in a while, you might get a young man who feels very confident of what they're getting ready to do. And he'll say, we're going to run it right here. Telling the opposing team right before the snap, we're running it right here, and you can't stop us. You know, as a football player, as an O-lineman, that was always kind of a fun thing. I remember the quarterbacks on my team getting in trouble for that when I was growing up playing, but there was some sort of swagger, some sort of confidence about that. However, the devil doesn't do that. The devil doesn't say, hey, I'm going to attack you right here. He rarely announces his attack. It'd be nice if it was like, warning, 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 devil's getting ready to attack you. But that's not how it happens. He doesn't come up to you and say, hey, you know, you guys are doing so good. You're so blessed, and I can tell you guys love and care for one another, and you're doing great, and your marriage looks great, but I just want you to be aware that I'm going to try to attack your marriage now. Okay, I'm going to try to come and destroy your marriage. So I just wanted you to be, you know, prepared for that, because I'm going to come and try to do that. You're doing great, though, guys. You're doing great. Keep up the good work, but just know I'm going to try to destroy it. The devil doesn't do that. He attacks with distractions. He attacks with seduction. He tries to just invade a little bit at a time. He's going to try to distract you in your relationship. Think about this. All throughout the Bible, we have this recipe of what the devil has done. Think of Eve, the very first sin, the fall of man, the curse that was put on the ground, the sin, the choice that changed everything. She was simply distracted by the fruit, enticed with the fruit. Did God really say this? Don't you want to be better than you are? And Eve gave in to that distraction. Think of King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, right? Loves God. But he was distracted by his people pleasing instead of just pleasing the heart of God. He knew, he was full of wisdom, yet he got distracted. Think of Judas, distracted with his love of money, even while he walked with Jesus. The devil distracted him. You can think of the Old Testament Israelite people, over and over and over, distracted with false gods. Distracted with false gods, distracted with this idea of wanting to look like every other nation when they had God as their leader, and they were constantly living distracted. Oftentimes, the devil's distractions are not big, obvious things. It's not like hey, I'm going to get you to do this huge, terrible thing. Oftentimes in your relationship, his distractions are going to come in small, sometimes seemingly innocent, sometimes they even seem like good things. But before we realize it, they've pulled us further and further from that first goal. And then it starts to change every role after that. Pretty soon, we're not seeking God first, and we don't even realize how it happened. We just drifted. And then that permeates every aspect of our life. A really powerful example of this that's super easy to glaze over is in the book Song of Songs or Song of Solomon. It's not a book we preach from a lot. It's not a book we teach from a lot. There's some kind of weird stuff in there. Solomon is pursuing this woman, and he starts complimenting her. And some of his compliments are kind of wild. Like he says her hair is like a flock of goats. He compares her to one of Pharaoh's horses. You know, just real sweet, endearing stuff. And I know context matters, history matters, but you read through some of that and you're like, what? Like, did you like this girl or not? You know, I'm picking up some weird vibes here. But then his tone gets really serious. In Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 15, all of a sudden he kind of pivots a little bit. And he says this, he tells her to catch all the foxes, those little foxes, before they ruin the vineyard of love, for the grapevines are blossoming. And that's kind of a weird, interesting analogy, isn't it? Catch all the foxes. Catch all those little foxes before they ruin the vineyard. And so what would happen is you'd have a vineyard and these foxes would go in and they'd eat the blossom. They'd eat the things that were blooming. And then you would never have a product. I don't know if you've ever seen a fox out in the wild. I always get excited when I see that. There's one down on Majors Road. I take that road typically a couple times a day during football season. And I love seeing, there's a fox I see down there quite a bit. It's so cool to see. Or there's a guy driving around in town that has a fox as a pet, just like you would a dog. They're cute, they're innocent, they're sweet looking animals. Unless you're trying to raise chickens or bunnies, or if you have a vineyard, because they will go in and they will just very sneakily, they'll just eat the things that are blooming. And then you'll never have a product. It seems innocent, it seems minor, it seems cute. It's just these cute little foxes. They're harmless. But left unchecked, they will destroy your entire harvest. Left unchecked, they will eat all of your chickens. They will destroy them. What does our enemy do? Well, he tries to distract us with small little things. Things that seem sweet and innocent and cute, just like that little fox. Not major, not huge. Sometimes it starts innocent enough, and it starts with you comparing your spouse to other people in a not healthy way. Why aren't they romantic like that? Why don't they do that? Why do they breathe like that? Why do they talk like that? Why are they so loud? Why do they drive like that? So-and-so doesn't do that. It can start innocently enough, and pretty soon it grows. It can start with things like, small fights over money. And then pretty soon maybe you just stop having it, or those fights just grow out of control, or controlling issues are put in place, or there's nagging, or living in a relationship where there's no mission. There's no intentionality. It seems innocent enough, and hey, we're getting by without it. It's just like that little fox, taking away, taking away, taking away. Till pretty soon you step back and you look, like, where's our harvest? What's going on here? The devil will attack with small distractions. The obvious distractions he will attack with, but they're obvious. Sometimes it's the little stuff that we have to be watching for. Now, I mentioned that I think the devil attacks with distractions, and he attacks with seduction, especially in marriage. Sexual temptation, sexual immorality is a part of the devil's plan to draw you away from God and to draw you away from your spouse and to ruin that covenant relationship. I read a stat that they said 60% of people who have gone through a divorce, 60% of people who have gone through a divorce cite pornography as one of the major contributing factors. So of those people who are getting divorced, 60% of them, over half, say pornography was a major issue that led into this. It was a part of one of those ingredients that was put in that's really hard to remove. I want you to look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 3. You can follow along on the Bible app. You can pull out your Bible. You can pause this. I want you to see this, though. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 3. It says, "But among you there must not be even a hint." There shouldn't even be a hint of sexual immorality or any kind of impurity or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Not even a hint. How much is a hint? Like, how much is enough to ruin something? So I've got this shaker bottle here. These are really handy. You just put water in them. I don't know if you can see in the bottom there. It's got like a silver wire whisk type ball. And what I do, so when I'm done recording and editing this, I'm going to start the upload process, and then I'm going to go work out. And so I take this pre-workout powder, right? And I'll take a scoop or two of that, depending on how I'm feeling that day. But I'll take a scoop of that, and I'll pour it in here. Okay? Pour that in there. Let it sit a little bit. Now, let me ask you a question. I have this. How much of this bleach disinfectant would it take in here to ruin the whole product? Is it 1 squirt? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it the whole thing? I don't know. But I'm not going to find out. I'm not going to put one drop of this in there. Because it's poison. Because it's not going to do any good. Because it's harmful. Why even mess with it? Why would I try a drop of that with something that I'm taking to try to help my body? But see, here's the thing. Oftentimes, we don't approach our relationship that way. We put in all these ingredients in and we're like, you know what? Like, this looks okay. This is good for me. These are the right ingredients. But I think I can handle a little bit of this. And so we squirt a little bit in. I think I can handle a little bit of this too. And so we squirt a little bit more in. And pretty soon, we've gone from, okay, not even a hint. Now we're just like, what's the most I can stand? So let me give you some scenarios, and you tell me if you think there's even a hint of sexual immorality here. How about this one? Somebody lies to their spouse. They go and have sex with a coworker when they're supposed to be at work. Is there a hint of sexual immorality there? Yeah, I would say that's a little more than a hint, but there is at the very least a hint. That's like a full-on, like full-fledged sexual immorality, right? How about this? How about watching porn on your phone? Is there a hint of sexual immorality there? Yeah, there is. There's a lot of sexual immorality there. How about looking lustfully after other people? Is there a hint of sexual immorality there? Yeah. Jesus says that's adultery. You've committed adultery when you look at someone lustfully. How about inappropriate content on like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or Peacock or whatever your streaming service is or whatever TV provider you use? I mean, it's not pornography, but it's inappropriate and sexualized. Is there a hint of sexual immorality there? How about just a flirtatious conversation with a coworker or with a friend? That's not going to go anywhere, but it's just a flirtatious thing. Is there a hint of sexual immorality there? Ephesians 5:3 says, "But among you there shouldn't even be a hint. There must not be a hint of sexual immorality, or of any kind of impurity, or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people." So our relationship goal today, and I'm giving this one at the end instead of the beginning. Our relationship goal today is draw the line. Figure out where to draw the line. Draw the line. If you know that you're vulnerable to certain types of things, if you know that you have temptations, if you know there's places, people's things that when you're around or when you're there or that you associate with that you're going to struggle, draw the line ahead of time and stay away from it. Don't put yourself in a position where you can be vulnerable. Draw your line and come up with your list here of the things that you're going to avoid. The things that you're not going to do. And stay away from it. If I knew that over here, if I knew over here there were a bunch of poisonous snakes that were just waiting to strike and waiting to devour me, and if I knew there were lions and all sorts of evil, terrible things over there waiting to devour me, and I could stay away, I would stay away. If I knew that all these things were over here, and I knew if I crossed the line, that I was going to be a lot more vulnerable, I just wouldn't even cross the line. I wouldn't even deal with it. I wouldn't even put myself in a place where I have to withstand that temptation. Far too often marriages are full of men especially, but women too, who put themselves in a place where they're vulnerable and they think, I can do this. No, draw the line. Stay away from it. If that relationship is leading you into a comparison trap of your spouse, stay away from that other relationship. If your phone is causing you to struggle with pornography and looking things up, Get a flip phone. Disable apps on your phone. Open transparency. There's covenant eyes. There's things out there that will protect it. But whatever it is, draw the line. Draw the line in the sand and stay away from it. Solomon, who I talked about being distracted earlier, was full of wisdom, and he said this in Proverbs 4:14-15. He said, "Do not set foot on the path of the wicked or walk in the way of the evildoers. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn from it and go on your way." Do not set foot. Don't tiptoe that line. Don't walk on it thinking, I can do this. I got this. Just don't even go there. Stay away from it. If you're vulnerable to looking at things, stay away from it. If you're vulnerable with someone you work with, get a new job. Change positions in the company. Whatever it is, draw your line and don't cross it. Rather than trying to fight temptation in the future, just get rid of it now. Change it now. Draw that line and don't cross the line. Now, here's the thing. Whenever I do a message like this, people will be like, oh, well, there it is. Christianity is just a list of do's and don'ts. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Right? And I talk about drawing a line, being smart, identifying what those issues are. But here's the thing. It's not just about avoiding those things. Honestly, a lot of it is going to be about what you choose. About what you choose instead. You can say no to these things because you know who and what you're saying yes to. You're saying yes to seeking God first. You're saying yes to a God-honoring relationship. You're saying yes to living an intentional marriage with purpose and focus. So you can say no to those foxes, to those temptations, to those distractions. Seek God first. Choose Him and allow Him to pull you closer to Himself and to your spouse. Choose God. Choose to draw close to Him. Choose to trust Him and His ways. Our relationship goal today: draw your line, understand what you're saying no to, and understand what you're saying yes to. Love you, church.